Hello, this is Wayne Roseberry of Software Testing. Today I modeled the behavior of Kusho.ai. It's a AI-driven test case generator. It focuses on REST APIs. And I use TestCompass to do some model-based design and drive some test case creation from it. I take a smallish feature in there because really model-based testing works better with small features. You'll see a demonstration of why that's the case as I go through this. And it's fun because we get a look at both apps and get a look at what it's like when you build a model to come up with cases, BDD, Gherkin language expression of the app, and forces you to learn more about app behavior and even see some problems on the way as you do it. I've never ever built a model on an app where I didn't find a bug doing so. So let's go take a look. I am going to show how to model a program to use it to think about test ideas and also show how we can start to see some problems as we do the modeling. This isn't live. This isn't like a raw reaction thing. I did this just a few minutes before starting the video, and I'm starting over again to recreate what I did in the video because I was still learning the tool when I did it. So you're getting repeat performance here, but it still is an interesting exercise. So the application that I am modeling is Kusho.ai. It's a no-code test or low-code AI-driven test case creation engine for doing like REST APIs and such as that. And the feature I'm going to work on is the environments feature, adding new environments. Environments are ways that you hold variables to use for different kind of test recordings. Okay, so that's what I'm going to cover there. And the tool I'm going to use for it is TestCompass. TestCompass is a state-based modeling program. It lets you draw the states of a system and then derive different kinds of lists of test cases from that using different traversals of the graph. Okay, so we're going to come in here and I'm going to reset myself back to the very top as if I'd come in because I want to represent the model that way, getting to the feature that we're talking about. So I'm going to go back to TestCompass and I've got in the list of projects, I've got one called Kusho.ai, and I've got a model I added by saying, add model to project called add environment. Okay, and it doesn't have anything in it yet except the start button. And we are going to start adding parts to the model. Okay, and so I'm going to, and you see this little red exclamation point, that means there's something incomplete, something action I have to do. If we go to the test tab, then it tells you all the issues in the model. It's not ready to do any generation yet. So, you keep on working until you get rid of these exclamation points. And so I'm going to connect the start to this action state block, and I am going to use some Gherkin style notation in it because I want to have it generate a Gherkin feature file as well, which is fun. So let's just call add environment. Okay, that's what we'll just call the feature here. I'm not much of a, I've never done Cucumber or Gherkin before, so this is a fun little activity for me. And let's go ahead and start building up the sequences. So we're starting from the dashboard, right? And I'm going to say connect that to the next action and say given user is on Kusho.ai dashboard. Okay, because that's where we're at. And we're going to say, I'm going to also call this out as just a straight action. And because we can do this as, sort of decision forks. But for right now, the sequence we're going through, it's easier to call it an action. And I'm going to say, and user selects settings And I'm going to shortcut the step a little bit. Settings and Environments tab. Okay, I'm going to put 2 actions into one just to make this easier. Tab. Okay, and there we go. So now we've got a given and an and, which means that this follows the next thing. And now I am going to say, what does the user do next? We'll say user selects add new environment, right? And we'll make that as a when user selects add new environment. Okay, and one thing, we can resize this a little bit to make it fit better, right? So that the text all fits in. I hate it when text doesn't fit like that. Okay, so we're creating a link out from the action to there. Well, one thing about the action nodes in TestCompass is action and state nodes can only have one exit. You see when I did this, it changed it there. It doesn't let you have 2 exits to nodes. It's just singular. Whereas likewise, the yes and the no off a decision can only go one path out, but you can have multiple paths coming in to a decision. So we'll see a bit of that later. Now let's say user selects add new environment. I'm going to create a result for that. That just takes us to an easy ending. Then let's just say environment list is unchanged. Matter of fact, let's just go take a look at this. We say add new environment. Let's say I did nothing here, right? I just chose not to do anything at all. Then this is going to stay unchanged. Whatever was there is what's going to still be there. So let's just leave it like that. And I'll connect that no, oops, instead of dragging it over here, I'll connect the no from that to there. And I am going to put an ending node there because I'm going to say if we got to this state, we're just going to be done with this model and say, okay, that is a ending state for that model. Okay, and you notice that there's a little bit of delay. Sometimes I've seen that take quite a while for the little exclamation point to come up, but we've still got to do more with this one. So user selects add new environment. So let's go explore what happens when we do that. We say add new environment, and we get the create new environment prompt. Okay, so I'm going to treat that as another decision point because there's some things that the user could do here, right? And let's look at this initially as what is happening here. So we say new environment name and create or cancel, right? So I'm gonna say when user clicks create, but let's say env1. We'll call it env1. So let's I want to talk about this as sort of growing the model as we think about things. So let's just say and user clicks create. Okay, that's a yes and a no. So let's just pretend we didn't think about the fact that we got to deal with the name here, and we just say create. Okay, we say create, and what happens? Okay, we've got the new environment is added to the list, right? That's our result. So we'll say the new result is then new environment added to list. Okay, and then we will let's create. For sake of making, sometimes we get the lines get cluttery if we aren't really careful about what we connect things to. So I'm going to give it a second endpoint to end with. And I am going to, but for this, and the user clicks create, and I'll say no. We'll say that that's as if they canceled. I'm going to say in the data no. It means clicked cancel, which which gets carried along inside the gherkin, carried along inside the test case details. And in this case, it's really just a notation. It's not like there's really any data there. But now we've got a model that creates a simple version of this. Let's take a look at what happens when we go over and we say generate test cases. So there's some interesting options that we've got here. We've got node coverage that will create enough cases to make sure every single node, which is every geometric shape, that's not a line, is hit. Okay. And actually it focuses on the decisions. Really, when it looks at its stuff, the decisions are what it focuses on, because everything else is kind of guaranteed to happen so long as you take the decision points. So node coverage will cover everything. Edge coverage will try to get every edge between options. Multiple conditions will try to make sure that all the choices are chosen. Then path coverage will make sure we get every possible path through the thing. I've been choosing path coverage just to see how large my test cases get. This is not going to be really big, but we should see. Okay, so we wind up with 3 cases from that. And you see the way it reflects it is that all of the decision points have numbers. So, this one's going from 1 to 3, and that's that path. And this one's going from 1 to 4, and that's that path. And then this one's going to 2, which exits straight out to there. And if we show test case details, when we select these, you get a verbal description of what was going through each of these, right? Now there's a nice feature here, which is generate feature file. And so long as I have carefully ordered this in a Gherkin compliant order, it will do this. If I change the order so that the thens and the ands or other words or things get mixed in there, it tells me it's not in proper Gherkin. It gives me a Gherkin error, essentially. So let's take a look at what this looks like. And you see it output a Gherkin file with a feature file with scenario and given and when then sequences for each of the traversals that I came up with, which is, for people using Gherkin to share ideas, or some people use it to drive automation. That's a nice output to get of this model. You can add other things to this. You can add background, you can add examples and other Gherkin constructs inside the model here. I'm just sticking with the simple given and when and then to build up what I'm doing. Now, let's look at a few things here though. So we're trying to build this model, and what I'd really like to do, I'd really like to get back to where I was so I can experiment with some options and work with my building up the model more. So I want to delete this guy. All right, that's the first thing that happened. So I said, okay, delete this. Maybe that deletes it. No, that just exits from editing. Maybe this will know this is there's a description column, and that's it. Variables, no, this adds variables to the thing. There's nothing. We haven't explored this feature yet. But there's nothing there to remove this. I, for the life of me, cannot find a delete environment option here. So here's a fun thing when you're working with models. Models are communication devices, right? They're tools for working as a team, and it's consequently it's convenient to do things like say, modify it. It's giving me a warning that I'm changing the model and I've made test cases, and it's going to invalidate test cases, which we're fine with that. Although it strikes me as interesting that why would a comment change the test cases? I didn't change the flow or anything. I don't believe the comment. Maybe the comment's supposed to populate into the case body. I don't know. Actually, I could look at that for a second and see what that generates. But let's look at the let's make the note. It's like, how do you delete these environments, right? It just strikes me as weird that the environments don't have a delete option. I'm going to put this down here. I wish this little thing could invert to point up that way. I like word bubbles that have a movable pointer on them, but this one doesn't. So that's a feature idea to give to TestCompass. I feel like we're testing both apps here. TestCompass is pretty solid, but there's some little things around the edges that I'm finding. So anyway, that's I feel like this is a a bug in Kusho.ai that either there is no delete environments feature or it's hidden. I don't like this growing list of environments that I seemingly can't delete. So that's a bug I'd bring up. But let's go back to why I'm interested in this. It's like, okay, I'd like to know when I say add new environment. Um, remember my last thing, which is I guess a convenience thing. But if you remember, the initial state was empty. Um, that is interesting because let's do this. Let's go in, come in from the top of the dashboard again and say add environment. See, this is something with modeling is there's a hidden state here. I wasn't even thinking about this. See, you're getting a little bit of live out of me because I wasn't thinking about this the first time I went through it. But we go in from settings and we choose environments. Okay, so we're back in here again. And if I say add new environment, yeah, it's empty. So there's an actual different state if you at least go back to the dashboard view than if you're staying inside this settings dialog. Inside the settings dialog, whatever you put in there seems to get persisted, okay, and remembered so that the next one comes up with that as the value, which is a little interesting because what is going to happen if I say env1 again and I say create? My expectation intuitively is it's going to say, no, you can't have two of these the same name. But that actually is not the case. I wind up with two of the same name, which is interesting. So I feel like there's, it sort of winds up being well, actually, no. If the user was to click create here, we've got kind of a different state, right? Because in this version of it, that was actually blank, right? So let's change the model to reflect this idea that we were coming in blank. So I'm going to move this over to create some room. I'm going to drag in a new decision point here, and I'm going to point it at this one, and I'm going to say, and user leaves name blank. Okay. And I'm going to click here. And then I'm going to say out of the no one, and because it adds it to the thing. It's just that it's a blank name, which is an interesting situation. And we can reuse this result block here. And then I'm going to create one here and say, and user creates new env name, okay? And in fact, this actually created a new state. I mean, a new one with the new name, which is that's fine. And then let's look at our third and only other option, which is and user writes existing env name. So something that was already there, right? And again, create, it winds up going through the same path. And I'm going to show you why I'm doing it that way. Let's just do that and find a nice clean place to put that. I don't like the way this overlaps the lines. I'm going to leave this here. But I want to put a bubble down here. It's like, and let's just say should blank and same as existing be an error instead. Now this product's shipped, it's delivered, and like if they change this behavior, they might ruin user expectations. But if I was going through the initial creation of this on the product team, this would have been a question for me, because to me it seems odd to allow the creation of environments that have exactly the same name. it creates a confusing UI. How do I differentiate one from the other? Maybe there's a good reason why they're allowing it, but to me that's weird. Why? Here, let me watch. If I just told you it did this. I'm sure I actually showed you. I'm maybe remembering things. Watch this. See. Create, and there it is. It's got a blank name, which is ridiculous. Now it's easily edited, right? This is my new name. Okay, so it's down there, but I think this is worthy. So this is one of the fun things about modeling is that when you actually go through a more detailed step by step of what's this thing forcing me to do, it makes you see ideas that you might not like in the app. You might want to bring up as an issue. Now, let's say that we went through all of this and we didn't go to clicking create from all of these, right? Then what we can do is we can just say, well, that just takes it back to the environment list is unchanged, which has an exit point, right? And now we have actually a richer looking set of options to go through in this thing, right? Which is kind of fun. I kind of like that. I don't like that these lines cross. We can play games with connecting things and moving things around so they aren't winding up crossed. But this is okay as it is. Now let's take a look. Let's see if we can what happens when we generate these. I think this is going to work right because I did it before. Yeah, okay. Now this one came up with 8 cases from what we've got. That's cool. That seems about appropriate. And a lot of those are derived from having gone through these sequences and such as that. And if we generate the feature file, it's good. It liked that. Didn't complain about the gherkin being wrong or anything like that. And so let's open the file into Notepad and take a look at that. Okay. And here we go. We've got, and this gets us a chance to see are the comments in there. And I don't see our comments in here. I don't see, let's real quick look. Let's look at the ones that went out through 3, because that's, it's like, are we getting, see, I think it's weird that adding a comment to this told us we're going to regen the test cases, because the comment didn't actually affect any of the logic. It's not affecting the output. So why there? Well, let's go back and take a look at this. So this has got, it's fun. We can look at all of the different options. So, add environment, given the users on Kusho, I misspelled that. It's supposed to be H-O. And user selects settings and environments tab. When you select add new environment, user leaves name blank. Yes, they leave the name blank. And they say no, they click cancel, in other words. So actually that notation was helpful. I like that. The environment list is unchanged. But if they had done the same thing, because the next one comes out through 154, right? Because that's the next on this list. If they they go through everything else the same, but they said click create, then the new environment is added to the list. Okay, with the name blank. Now you notice we're a little. It's a little bit unclear in the gherkin expression of it, that this new environment added to list and new environment added to list are not really the same. Sort of. Depends on your perspective. This one is a thing with a blank name is added to the list. This thing is something with a new environment name is added to the list. And this is something where a duplicate environment name is added to the list. One could argue these are 3 different states and that the gherkin poorly expresses that. And let's talk about how we would change that inside of TestCompass, because TestCompass is very explicit with its. It's very explicit with the way it does the environment, with the way it does the modeling. If you want to express an actual different state, you have to draw it in there. There's other modeling tools that imply, oh, we changed something on the way, and so even though the drawing looks like it's one thing, it's multiple different states. But TestCompass doesn't work this way. So what we can do here is duplicate user clicks create across the new environment name and existing environment name. And so I'm going to do that. Just going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. And so now I've got, oops. Let's go that. And let's do that again. Paste and get these down here. And let's get that over there just to kind of float that a little bit. And let's reattach this to here and this to here. So now we've got a distinct path. And then this guy's got to go here. And then this guy's got to go here. Okay. And so now we've got new blank name environment added to list, new environment list, new duplicate name environment added to list. This actually, and then we've got to tie all of these to end. I'm sorry, let's do that again. There. The anchor. I'm not used to clicking this anchor point. Actually, let's just for aesthetics, let's move this guy to the top and delete that. Watching me futz with the aesthetics of it, but I like it when lines look nice going around things and stuff. I spend too much time drawing, perhaps. And then this anchors nicely over here. And actually, this floats nicely here, and we can realize that it means the same thing over there. But now we've got a cleaner set of conditions that aren't overloading the meaning of the resulting blocks, right? There, nice clean lines. We can see that we actually are really getting to distinctly different states. So let's go here and let's generate test cases. It's the same number. It's interesting. It's the same number of cases, but I believe that what we should see is something that reads differently on the details, right? When we look at this new blank name environment, see, we wind up with a nice distinct new environment added to list, and look for something ends with 13. New duplicate name environment added to list. See, we get really nice naming on that, which I think maybe makes the model a little more clear to talk about. And if we generate the feature file, we can pick up the gherkin and take a look at it here. New blank name, environment list and change, new environment added to list, new duplicate name environment added to list. So we've got all of those now in here. Okay, which is that's a nice little model of this experience. I'm not going to draw it out, but let's pretend that we were talking about this in terms of the coming back in and trying it again experience, right? Because actually this gets tricky because once you start messing with the order of when and then and go back to another given. I haven't played with that yet, but the idea would be that if we've gone through this loop one more time and come back in and like go away from the settings tab and go back to the dashboard. So let's say there was like a connection from here to there. And actually the way you would do it is I'll do a little bit of kind of the idea of one way you could do it. And the test case modeling would do this, which is like, let's say, done. No. Yes, say yes is ending. That gives a nice clean line to the end guy. Okay. And then let's say, well, if we had done that, then sort of we can say the user goes back to the dashboard, right? Or we could say click, or we could say let's just say no is switch to dashboard. This is actually if I do it this way, maybe this is good to talk about. If I do it this way, then we wind up in a situation where the test cases, first off, the test cases, it's going to make a lot more of them because we've got this done switch to dashboard thing. It's not going to like the gherkin if I do this. Maybe it gives me a chance to show you it hating the gherkin. But you see how it made a lot more cases. It's because we've got a loop back in the model preceded by all the other possibilities that take us back to environment list unchanged. So all of those times going back through the model. So that gives you one heck of a coverage. This is where some of the interesting options are, because if I say I just want to see all the nodes visited and I generate the test cases, look at this. I only need three cases to hit every single node in this model. That's an interesting reduction. If I want to say edge coverage, I only need 4 if I want to get all the edges between things. And if I want to only just get all the multiple condition cases, the things where the conditions coming out of the decision blocks combine with each other, how many do I need? I only need 8. Okay. But if I'm going to cover every possible path, how many was that? That is, geez, look at that. That's 256 cases. That's crazy huge, right? Now we can deselect those and stuff, and export them. Dump this. Generate test design dumps them to an Excel file. Let me show you what that looks like. Export and environment path coverage. I'm going to load Excel and open that because I get this error about not being able to open them in protected mode when I open them from the file thing. But if I browse into them, it works out better. Go to my downloads and add environment path coverage.xls. Yeah, open and take a look. We can see what this looks like. It's going to be kind of a big one. Opening in protected view. Trying to protect me from me. Okay, and so now you can see that like each test case number is given here, and the path that it's expressing and which step it's on, and the state that was in. You see the expected results reflected here, data carried here, which is nice to see expressed. And then we've got all of the all of the different cases there, which is handy. It gives you a way to look at it outside of the tool, which is good, and maybe even do things with it. It would be interesting to play around with analysis and pivot on that. So I'm going to close that down. Just it's useful to know that that's there. But look at this crazy explosion of things. And furthermore, this isn't really right, because what this doesn't reflect in the way I modeled this is that if I go back to the original dashboard state that's in this model, it's going to come through here and then go down to and user leaves name blank, except that we know that if we came down to it through either this path or this path, it's going to remember that value through here. And what it's really going to do is present that value coming out of here. And so leaves the username blank, user leaves name blank. It's not, they'd actually have to change it to make it blank. It comes in with an initial value there. So really, we need to, instead of go back to the dashboard state, we would need to start a whole different, let's just go back to dashboard. Let's say back to dashboard, and then continue on from there to actually correct what's really going on. And the model would look like, if we wanted to truly get all the ideas, this same set of options, except that it would be reflecting that whatever option we've chosen here is coming in there. And that actually gets a little complicated. Like, which one was it? Is it the duplicate one, or is it the new one? And it's do we want to express that difference, or just that there's some value that's in there? So it starts getting complicated modeling it when we try to do more, which is part of the end result of the explicit way that TestCompass works with that. But I'm gonna stop it here because I think we got a good look at several things. We got a good look at the number of cases that were reflected by the initial model. We got to look at the gherkin. We talked about some ways of creating the model so that it more explicitly states the differences that we're talking about, and then we can use it to talk about some problems that we experienced on the way through the app we're looking at, which is as important a way of using modeling as it is to come up with test cases. We saw a big monster test case explosion. We saw a great example of reducing the number of cases using different model traversal strategies. And we talked about how extending the model might, make better representation of what they're doing. So that was fun. Oh, and we found, I don't know, a couple of quirky issues with TestCompass as well, which is fun to find bugs in both apps. So that is, that's my little modeling session. I enjoyed doing this. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you.